Hello, I'm Brian Daines.
Hi, I'm Carys Reilly.
We're both artists who, before our recent collaboration around endometriosis, had done that work in that area before. And we thought it might be useful just to tell you how we came about doing that. So would you like to start, Carys?
Yeah, of course. I had kind of taken a break from practicing art, not really voluntarily, just more out of like sheer exhaustion. While I was while my endometriosis was getting really bad, and I started making work around it, kind of in the aftermath of my surgery. So I had excision surgery, actually exactly 3 years ago today, on the 26th of November in 2019, and I woke up from surgery and it was suddenly like this brain fog had just lifted, and I had all these kind of ideas for the first time in ages about art that I wanted to make. And so while I was basically still kind of on bed rest recovering from surgery, I kind of started like writing about my experience, primarily what had made me angry about my experience with being diagnosed and going through treatment. And a lot of it was very kind of visual, the things that had really frustrated me. um, a lot of kind of equating endometriosis to this kind of like hyper feminine hysterical archetype of women. And so that's kind of really where I started creating pieces. It was while I was on sick leave from work and recovering from surgery, I began kind of making all of these little sort of miniature sculptures, partly because I was quite physically limited by what I could make at the time. Um, and yeah, from then I kind of started looking at the way endometriosis is visually represented in these very kind of hyper feminine, patronizing ways, and kind of recreating these almost to an absurd degree to kind of make visible how this condition is perceived and talked about and visually represented. Um, and I'd sort of begun integrating quite a lot of textiles, firstly, because that's what I studied, but also because a lot of the times we do represent gynecological conditions in these very euphemistic ways. And a lot of this was through these kind of fluffy, hyper feminine, kind of textile related backgrounds and images, where they're too squeamish to portray actual blood or organs. It'll be represented with kind of pink felt and pink liquid. And so that's where a lot of my original work came about.
Right. Well, my background is as a psychotherapist, and I worked quite a lot with uh, people, particularly women with chronic illnesses, and also medical education, and became aware really of how much women's issues are ignored health-wise, how they can be easily dismissed, how treatments can often be inappropriate. And when I went to my studio in central Sheffield that I'm in at the moment in 2014, one of the things that I intended to do was to do some work around this theme of women's chronic illness. And it happened that somebody I worked with at a project in London had endometriosis and was also interested in increasing people's awareness of the condition and the difficulty of getting diagnosis and treatment. And that led to a collaborative art project and my continuing interest really in this condition, and hopefully that in the future things will improve with diagnosis and treatment.
Sorry, I just realized